Ladies and gentlemen, we are back for another episode of the Draxx Life Podcast, where we'll chat about some of the weird and the wondrous. Let's get to the show.
And so yeah, you're dropped into the middle of the story again, Shakespeare style. So the union guys like going to a bar and just hanging out with like the carpenters and the stage builders and like the obviously the cops and the firefighters. That's what I'm about now.
You're the man of the people.
Yeah, I want to hang out with the union boys.
So they look at you and they're like, "Who's this guy?"
I know, because they're like, "Oh, who's this Puerto Rican guy?" That's a soccer fan, but I know hockey, so hockey is big in that community as well.
That's
so,
the unifier.
Yeah, because they don't really watch international sports, so they don't watch UFC, Formula One. I like UFC and Formula One and pro wrestling, but they're more like American, like hardcore American NFL guys like Joe. Even though I'm glad, Joe, you came back to the Giants because I was getting worried there. It's like, you can't switch teams, man. I'm going to call you out right now. No. That can't happen.
If Joe left the Giants, it would be like, there might be
that's crazy
incident.
Correct. The sun we would have a lunar eclipse. Something tragic would happen at like a cosmic scale.
Yeah, it's like the Graham Hancock, like, cataclysmic event.
Yes, exactly.
What it would be.
Exactly.
I'm still pissed, but it is what it is.
So, ladies and gentlemen, you are kind of we did a funny. We just dropped you into the madness without any precursor.
Salute to everyone.
But that's how we do it. You have the usual suspects. You have Bobby A looking like a WWE promoter, which is a good look. I like this look.
Oh yeah.
We got Joseph Marc, who's hidden behind, he's hidden in the darkness of the darkness. You got yours truly.
Yeah. Chris Corvo, the host with the most.
The hostess with the mostest. I would like a hostess. Maybe give me a Twinkie.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Isn't there a hostess factory in New Jersey? There is.
There might be. I have no idea.
I believe there is.
Dude, you know what I learned out the other day is that Woody Harrelson is a vegan, a raw vegan. Sorry, we're going down a slight detour.
No, do it. This
and
is the best
man
part of the show.
For Zooland, what is it? The Zombie Land. He eats Twinkies. Mm-hmm. They had to go and create for him a 100% vegan raw Twinkie so that he could eat this Twinkie on this movie set. The whole movie. I don't know.
I didn't know that.
That was kind of ridiculous.
That is weird. But I didn't know Woody Harrelson. Actually, there's the He's in a Curb episode. Have you seen that one?
Yes, I did. I just rewatched Curb like last week.
Yeah, we talked about that. He has a farm where he has animals, so that makes sense. He went full vegan, eh?
Full raw vegan, which is is like the Illuminati of the vegan world. It's like you're going deep. Sorry if anyone's vegan, I'm not trying to hate, but like that means you literally will not eat cooked food. Everything is raw.
Yeah, but Woody Harrelson is on the herb almost 24/7.
Oh yeah, I mean his body is like humming at vibrations that we're not even aware of anymore.
Yeah, exactly. I love Woody Harrelson. What an actor.
What a guy. I do think it's funny that Woody Harrelson and Matthew McConaughey are doing all these Salesforce.
They're best friends.
Oh, no.
They're best friends.
Yeah, I'd like to talk about that one day. Is have an episode just on sports betting, and also just like the whoring of Hollywood to like all of these big corporations.
That is an interesting topic.
Because like here you are, Matthew McConaughey. You're trying to be like there was that one stint where he was like talking about trying to get into politics and whatnot, and now it's like I don't know. You're doing tech commercials. I guess I can't hate. If I was going to get thrown some money, would I say no to it? But I don't know. It's just kind of.
I don't think dumb. They're hard up for cash though.
That's what I'm saying. It's not like you. But again, if you like money, you never have enough of it.
It's true.
But also, too, if you have a certain living standard, it's kind of hard to try to keep up with that when you don't have as much money coming.
Wait, is Joseph Marc on the side of the wealthy?
God, I'm just pointing out a simple fact.
recorded here. He has
Too late.
crossed the road.
It's clipped up in 5K. It's too late.
Oh God.
But anyway, so what were we going to talk about today? I'm going to kick it to you, Joseph. Go. What were we going to say, Rob?
Before Joe goes, what do you think about the McConaughey? I mean, obviously, I'm a Matthew stan, my guy. His Uber Eat commercials are pretty good. They're pretty funny, actually, because he's bringing in, because McConaughey is attached to I would say, like the program. There's a lot. He gets NFL players like McCaffrey. Joe will know him. McCaffrey, Kittle. There's like other celebrities coming in, and but that is a great topic, Chris. Like, why is Matthew McConaughey the spokesperson for Uber Eats now? He doesn't need to do that. No. Why is he doing it?
I look forward to when AI takes all of these people's jobs. Maybe I'm bitter.
Diabolical, dude.
Maybe
Don't say that.
But it's just kind of like, I don't know. Think about it. It's like, it's rich people. I don't know. It's like something about it's odd. You know what I mean? It's like there was a time when like the theater folks were poor, but they were like artists and they like put on performances, and then wealthy people actually went to watch them and kind of envy them on stage. And now it's like the richest people in our society are also the performers. So we pay rich people to perform for us and entertain the peasants. Something about that just seems odd to me.
Yeah, no, I know both of you hate award shows, but I have watched the Golden Globes mostly because of Nikki Glaser and the who was fantastic, by the way, and the Grammys. But you're right. That's a good point, Chris. There's the way they talk to each other. It's almost like they can only hang out with other wealthy people, because the way they were talking, like the interviews, I was like, these people are weird, man. Straight up weird.
Dude, I think going to Hollywood would be strange. Like if you had the chance to go to like a Hollywood party, I do think it would be, not to be conspiratorial, but I think there would be an essence of all of the conspiracies that like are taken out of, they go too far. But I definitely think you'd feel a vibe where you're like, I'm not like.
I've been at a party at Prince's house. We'll tell that story.
Cool. I didn't know this. This is interesting.
Yeah, in the Hollywood Hills, baby, LA.
Yeah, I don't
know. But yeah, no, you're spot on. There's the culture where they can only hang out with people that are quote unquote like them. It's definitely prevalent. But
that's why I like Shane Gillis. I like Shane Gillis because even like though he's becoming kind of famous, it's like I think he does a good job of kind of laughing off the fame. You know what I mean? So it's like I've seen
Shane Gillis.
Yeah, I've seen him on like they've had him do like commentary for like football games, and like he'll get in kind of trouble because he'll say something that it kind of goes against the unwritten rules of like what you're supposed to do. And then he'll just be like, aren't we here to watch a football game? Like, come on, guys. Like, this is like, let's not act too crazy here. It's football.
Exactly right. Like, Joe will know who he is. Nick Saban. Him and Nick Saban are like feuding now because Shane Gillis said something on that show. It's a college football show that Nick Saban didn't like. So he's pissed off. And of course, Nick Saban is like the big, like legendary football coach. He works for ESPN now, so it's owned by Disney. So he's in the pocket. And Shane Gillis was just like, no, I'm just going to be a fan and I'm going to talk like a fan talks. And Nick Saban didn't like that. The same thing with Nikki Glaser. She's like, I'm just going to do what I do. And these people can hold that if they have a problem. All right.
I would love to get you into this. I got to find out some way to make Bobby A famous. I think you would use that power wisely.
I'll dominate, but in a good way for the people.
I think it would torment you, though. I think it would be like it might be the best thing I could do for you and the worst thing I could do for you.
I might lose my mind, but
because you are a man of the people, and I think at a certain point it would start to bother you because you would be so far removed from the people which invigorate and give you power and sustenance.
Yeah, I love that. That's wow. You just blew my mind there. Big up the union guys every time. Love the boys. But
all right, let's
go ahead.
Go, Joe. Joe, one of these days the audience will see you But since they're not going to see you today, you're free to be as wild as you want to be. What are we talking
He's
about today?
bulking still, so give him
He's
time.
cultivating mass, ladies and
Yeah,
gentlemen.
exactly.
You'll see him once he's begun to harvest that mass.
That's right. There needs to be a harvest at some point. But go ahead.
What the fuck?
Listen, man, you're gaining, but then you gotta cut at some point.
I mean, come on now. You have to cultivate, and then you got to trim it down, dog.
You gotta sculpt it.
You're right.
Gonna massage it into the shape that you want. Ooh. All right, Joe, what are we talking about today?
Suburban life versus city life.
All right.
So it's just
I love this.
years of like traveling back and forth for like an hour and then coming back home for an hour plus. During those trips, it had me thinking, why do people in the suburbs make this type of commute when it's so inconvenient on time? And then I'm reminded, when you get to your place, you have your own space, you have your own peace of mind. So it's like it's kind of like a balance that you have to play. And it had me thinking, now that I'm no longer there, like, why do people choose a city life over a suburban life, or why do people choose a suburban life over a city life?
Interesting. I wish all of the audience, the millions of people who will one day watch this, knew Joseph Marc. Could picture this man walking down the streets of Chelsea in a 3-piece suit on his way to his retail job.
Oh God!
Oh, what a beautiful sight that was.
Kenneth Cole. Remember the Kenneth Cole era?
Oh man,
I still wear Kenneth Cole.
Do you?
Yeah,
oh right,
but just not suits.
When you cultivate the mass, and once it's harvested and you're in your new form, you've emerged as the new version of your Pokemon self.
Oh,
Go back to the suits, bro. I would love it.
Everyone keeps saying
you're a Don. All right. Anyway, we digress. So the question is, you've been thinking about this kind of like dichotomy between suburban living versus
It's a good question. It's
city
a good
living
topic. Yeah.
Now, I want to put a little more meat on the bone, like city in general, or should we be focusing specifically on New York? Because like if you're living in Miami, you're driving, right? If you're living in LA, these are cities, but you're driving around.
No, I disagree with that. As a man who spent a lot of time in Miami, now Miami has pockets, specifically Brickell. That neighborhood is basically like a tropical Williamsburg.
Fair.
That's the way.
But would you say statistically the majority of the people there are
statistically, yeah,
they're driving, they got cars.
All right, yeah.
Whereas in New York City, I think that the vast majority of people do not have cars.
Yeah, I'll concede that. Yeah, you're right.
And then like LA, I'm pretty sure you need a vehicle. I mean, you can use public transit, but you that's a last resort. I don't think that's
LA you pretty much need to have a car.
So Joe, do you want to focus on New York since like that is where that city the best, or do you want to be broad and like just generically like suburban life versus like city life?
I mean, if it helps for this episode, then we can make it more detailed. But I've been to like we've gone to LA, Rob and I. Going to Santa Monica. Santa Monica has that kind of like city feel where you can walk around. Been to London, same as New York.
I would say that's
London is very close to New York. Yeah, it's bigger though. It's way bigger.
It's more spread
way
out.
Bigger. Yeah,
Chicago too. It's walkable. I've been there. So, but I guess I'd say let's make it more generic. And not just me thinking about it. All the cities that I've been to, you can make it more generic. And if we need to come up with examples, then we can pinpoint New York.
All right, cool. So, so you've been thinking about, so you throw it out, man. I know we have some subtopics, but like, where do you want to begin this this dissection between these two habitats?
Well, I think coming from me, the first and foremost thing is how expensive it is. Like living in a city is just expensive as hell, and you don't have those kinds of expenses when you're living in the suburbs.
Yeah, I agree with that. But yeah, I would say city life, it depends, because there's major cities that aren't New York Miami, because I think that's what Corvo is alluding to. Are we talking about Miami, LA,
Yeah.
New York, or we're talking about other cities? Because Nashville is a big urban city, but it's not like New York
Yeah.
and Miami. It's not.
Like New York is
not.
super expensive. So like
Yeah,
by
that's different.
comparison,
But even Nashville is changing.
oh yeah, it is.
The influx of people that are coming into Nashville, you could tell the cost of living there is going to skyrocket if it hasn't already.
Yeah, it's definitely changing now, but you can still live on affordably in Nashville now if you want, and still get, like you said, like the city feel.
Yeah. So okay, let's dig into this. So like one thing I'd say to you, Joe. So the money that's like a big one. Like
Rent.
living or like what it costs to live or like entertainment. Like I don't know,
Definitely.
that's why I said it's a broad topic. That's why it's like we got to kind of like
Yeah,
pull out some
Yeah.
threads.
I'd say rent
That's
in
right.
just to hammer it down, rent and versus like mortgage. So like in a lot of the big cities, the rent is just as much as a mortgage, if not even more now.
Oh yeah, 100%. But dude, so let me ask you this question, Joseph. Like for like my brother, for example, so I'm in the suburbs. Just like for the audience, like we all lived in New York together.
Hmm.
I live in the suburbs. These two guys were born and bred in New York City, like
Native New
native New
Yorkers.
Yorkers.
Yeah.
I moved to New York, so I have perspective of living in the suburbs, moving to the city, and
Mhm.
now being back in the suburbs
Yeah.
in my 30s. Right. The one thing I'd say, Joe, it's I'm curious about this. Like I think that's always been kind of true, right? Where it's like the age old question of like renting versus like owning a house, right? Like in New York, you might have been paying 2,000 plus a month for rent, where historically you could, get a house, and that maybe is your mortgage or less. But like I almost wonder nowadays, like my brother's looking for looking for a house in New Jersey. Dude, houses are expensive. Like houses that were at one point very affordable or should have been affordable are now like significantly more. So it also comes down to where, like if you're talking about like New York versus New Jersey suburbs,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's changing versus if you said live in New York City or move to like Pennsylvania, then it's like even that's you know what I mean, that even that becomes different.
But I also think that's like a COVID or post COVID kind of phenomenon where a lot of people were leaving the cities to go to the suburbs or go to like rural areas. And it kind of skyrocketed like the cost of buying a house. So that's kind of like a newer thing going on. But I still think that renting, for the most part, as even though in my opinion it's more convenient, it tends to be a little bit more expensive than pulling out a mortgage and owning your own home.
Oh, I agree. I mean, think
Yeah.
about go ahead. Sorry, go ahead, Rob.
No, I'm just agreeing with Joe.
Yeah, I mean, I
Yeah.
think about it this way: even if your mortgage is higher in the long term, you can sell it and hopefully at least like I always look at it this way: like if you rent an apartment in New York, you're paying to take up space for a period of time in a location, right? You're paying to be in New York City, right? But at the end of your time, if you do 10 years there, it's like you're gonna walk away negative whatever money you've spent in your rent plus the experience, then you get experience, right? Your memories. Whereas if you paid more in a mortgage and you sold your house, like even if you broke even, that's better than renting in a sense. So like, you know what I'm saying? Like I think people like coming from a renting background to a owning perspective, I don't see how owning is never the right choice. Because even if you sold your house and you just got your money back, that's better than if you rented. If you rent, you're always negative. You're always going to lose the money.
Yeah, that's
But
fact.
you're not making, like if there's a problem, you call your landlord, fix this. If there's an issue, whereas if you own a house, it's like you got to fix it, or if there's
Mm-hmm.
your heating goes out or something like that, you're responsible. But in the end, like I always think is like even if you made no money on that property and you just got your money back, that's better than if you rented. Yeah, but you're not going to be living in New York City, or you're not going to be living in Miami, or not going to be living in LA. You know what I mean? So like you're going to have to go find you know what I mean? You're losing the scenery, the activity, the interactions with people. So like maybe we can look at it from that. I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on that. Like, are you thinking about moving to the suburbs? Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Draxx Life Podcast. As you can see, the headphones are on, so I just got done recording. And if you enjoyed the show, if you enjoyed listening to two madmen just speak nonsense, then please take a moment to hit like and subscribe. It definitely helps. But without further ado, I lead you back into the program. Hope you enjoy the rest of the show. Peace.
No, and it's definitely not something I thought about. It's just it popped up in my head. Like, why do people brave an hour and a half commute from the suburbs to the city to save money or to have to be around less people? It's just a weird, interesting dichotomy that
Oh,
I
yeah.
just think of whenever I have to travel.
Yeah, but who do you know anyone that does that? I mean, I know people who do that, but do you?
Yeah, and
That-
even with me, I feel like I
Like
kind of
at your
have a mini suburbia kind of thing going on.
well, yeah, you kind of do that as well.
Yeah, my sister bought a home in southeast Brooklyn, and it's kind of like very sleepy around here. So, and there's barely any mass transportation. So it's kind of like a
You just
mini.
basically just buses, right?
Yeah.
No trains.
Yep.
That makes it harder.
Ugh. Yeah, you live in like I wouldn't want.
But that's you said being around people. Sometimes when you get older, you don't want people
Exactly.
around. So.
Exactly. That's something I also thought about as well, like how hectic city life is, and compared to like being in the suburbs where you just want peace of mind. You kind of want to have take a breath and just relax for a bit. Like that rat race kind of life it's taxing mentally and physically.
Oh yeah.
But
Go
what do
ahead.
you think? What do you think on the counterpoint for that? What do you think about having? Because like you said, rat race. There's being in the city. There's an energy. There's a feel, and
Yeah.
it's. I've read like science and in terms of the science and the biology and the way human brain works, it's good to be around people because it's healthier. It's in terms of the socialization part of it. So I'm not saying you're totally isolating yourself, but
Hmm.
yeah, less people when you get older, it's less headaches, but you still need to be around people because it's better for you, just for your mental health, and it even trickles down physically as well.
Now I agree 100%, but some people they need like a break, like just to get away from the madness that is a city life, especially New York City, where it's like 120 miles an hour all day, every day. It can be a lot.
Yeah, I mean, dude, there's a lot of people. So, like, for example, I live in South Jersey. There are a lot of people who grew up in New York that live down here and are older. So they moved
Oh
here
yeah,
like 40 years ago. So, I mean, they're perfect examples. Like, they grew up like you guys, native New Yorkers, maybe Queens, Brooklyn, wherever. And then at a certain point, their family or they decided to move deep into New Jersey. Like, 40 years ago, this area was where I live was rural, right? So they were of escaping or trying to escape or seek what you would like you said, a peace that they were probably not getting um, in New York City. But again, and then you have the next generation who will grow up in a rural environment or the suburbs and will get bored of it, and then when they turn 18, 19, 20, they want to go move to where the action is and they move to the city. So I think
yeah,
it's also kind of like a natural, I think,
Cycle.
rotation.
Yep.
yeah. No, that I agree with. However, you you said it there. I don't mean to keep bringing up this topic, but I think that's more desirable when you have children and you have a partner.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, I wrote down as one of my notes before we were talking was like, yeah. I mean, I think like you said, Joe, like as you get older. Well, that's right, because as you get older, you've already kind of like established. You have like relationships. You have a significant other, whatever. Not in all cases, but in many cases. And now it's like you're taking your little island, your little country, and you're relocating it somewhere else. I think it is different if you were like to move by yourself. Like I definitely think suburbs or rural, like because like where I live is suburbs. Like there's people around, there's maybe things to do, not as much as the city, but you're not living in like Wyoming, where your nearest neighbor is like 20 minutes down the road. So it's not rural. But I also have met people who leave New York solo for like jobs. So they got a job in the suburbs, and that was their impetus for leaving. But yeah, I definitely think like that's why young people move to the city, right? Because they want to meet people, they want to be around people. Cities are more, they're better for that than if you were to live out in like the suburbs. Yeah, I definitely see the advantage. Like I see it's the benefit of living in a city, especially if you're single. It's 100% better to live in a city, I think.
Absolutely.
And also, there's more activity in a city. Like, there's just more things to do.
Yeah, think of New York. There's people from all over the world living in the same space as you, like almost rubbing elbows with you, right next to you, and you can, like you said, any activity you want to do. Any activity, whether it's nefarious or positive, you can get into in New York. You can find the pockets of the people that you want to spend time with, and you have unlimited options 24/7.
Yeah.
So there's an appeal to that.
Yeah. I mean, I do think the downside to your point though, Joe, is like it comes at you got to ask yourself the question of like, what is that? Like, this is what I ask myself is like, what is that? Put a dollar amount on that, right? Like, and I think that's everyone is doing that has to do that math. For some people, it's like, I'll pay for that type of activity, that type of energy. And for others, they're like, no, it ain't worth it. Like, even for me, I'll do the math. Like, to live in New York City, you get those benefits, but like, I realized for myself, I wasn't taking like full advantage of them. So then I'm like paying to be in a place with all of these things, these amenities, but I'm not taking advantage of them. So it's like having a gym membership when you don't go to the gym. So like, I think that's one of those things too. Like if you're living in a city and you're taking full advantage, like you, Bobby, like you take full advantage of all the activity. So for you, it's like, it's worthwhile. A lot of people live in the city, but they're like, they don't go out. They don't do anything. So at that point, that's when you got to ask yourself, it's like, why am I here? Because I'm dealing with crowds. I'm commuting via public transit, which, let's be honest, like public transit it gets old real quick. If that's your main form of like getting places. Yeah.
I resent that. So, but it is shitty. I'm not going to say.
I mean, dude, for you to get to your job, if you drove, how fast would you get there?
Like 5 minutes.
How fast? How long does it take you to get there by public transit?
40. Yeah.
Maybe an hour.
Yeah, it's like 40 to an hour if you get to the subway station and you just missed the train. Yeah, it's probably close.
Dude, that's why the people who are like the long-lived native New Yorkers, how many of them buy cars?
Not many.
No?
Or no, when they eventually leave, yes.
No, I'm saying like, because I know people who are like where I lived in Queens, a lot of those people have cars.
Oh yeah,
they might not drive them all the time, but they're like
Queens is Staten Island.
Yeah,
like
Joe's right.
Yeah.
But I wasn't living in like deep Queens. You know where I was living, Ridgewood.
Yeah,
like, Bushwick is right there. But like people have cars. Like they grew up there. They want to be able to like drive to Long Island.
Yeah, I take that back. You're
and
right.
Like
That's
go
true.
to the beach and it's like a 30-minute drive versus like a 2-hour subway ride with multiple connections where you have to carry your surfboard.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, you're right. I take that back. First of all, I got to say something here. Corvo, you look like the guy that's robbing your house in the home security commercials.
There you go. That's what I'm going for, man.
What you look like. That beanie, man.
I stumbled across you see my jean jacket, my motorcycle jean jacket?
Yeah.
I found this deep in the closet. I was like, it's time to reemerge. It's like the Dark Knight Rises, man.
Yeah, you look like the guy that's creeping through the front lawn. You know what I'm talking about. Joey looks like Jay Cutler looks the same way. Yeah, he's an old NFL player.
I'll take it, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much.
But what I was gonna say is, yeah, you're right. I take that back. Most in Queens, but Joe has a point. In Staten Island and like South Brooklyn and Queens, yeah, you need a car. It's almost like living. It almost is the suburbs, Staten Island. But yeah, if you're from the Bronx, if you're from anywhere like West Brooklyn, definitely Manhattan. Manhattan, you never need to touch a car ever. Why would you? Because it's faster in the subway. But to your point, dealing with the subway, it gets wild.
Yeah, I mean, if you live in Manhattan, which is becoming more and more,
you got to be rich.
There's less native New Yorkers living in Manhattan than there once was. If you're in Manhattan, dude, it's like take the subway. You take it like 10 minutes. You're uptown. You're downtown. You're wherever you need to be. But like for the most of us who live in the outer boroughs, it's like to get to Manhattan can even be a little bit of a trek, right?
Mm-hmm.
Joe, you know better than probably most of us.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote down. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Joe.
Just the cost of transportation is it can be wild to think of just getting insurance, paying for tolls now because there's like congestion pricing, paying for gas. Like living in the suburbs can be a bit of a chore when you're trying to commute into the city as opposed to relying on mass transit.
Yeah, but
that's
you're
another
also.
thing you have to think about.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Finish your thought.
No, I'm done.
Yeah, I guess also part of this conversation is the underlying premise is that people are commuting back into New York City, right? Because like if you move to the suburbs, and you work in the suburbs, that's not even like a question anymore.
Yeah.
But if you're talking specifically about people who choose to live in the suburbs but continue to work in New York, that's like even like a whole other subset. Like that's like a world in itself, right? Because then I think you have a lot of people who they get paid a lot of money. And it's like, I want to live where it's quiet in like my nice ass home, but I get paid $300,000 to go work in the city.
But that's not always the case, though.
Not all. But I mean, that is a lot. I mean, that's North Jersey. Like, how many of those people work every day in New York City? But they live in
many of them.
You know, they live in New Jersey. But you're right, it's not all.
Because I'm thinking of like firefighters and police officers. A lot of them don't live in New York City. They live in Long Island. And
Copland, great movie. This is what the movie's about. That's what the movie's about.
And they don't make $300,000 a year.
Yeah, but those people make money in like other ways. Like think of it, like if you tally up their pensions, like the fact that like you could be 40 and be done with a pension and now be working on your second career. Like I always felt like the cops I talked to in New York were like very good. I'm generalizing, but like they made money. You know what I mean? It was the long game, but like they worked maxed out OT. They knew exactly how many years they needed to get their pensions. They had like they did night work as like security guards.
I was just gonna say that.
And then they bought houses in like Long Island that were more affordable, but they like work in Manhattan. Like the math adds up, and I think for them, they're making money. They're not making $300,000. Maybe when it all said and done, when you tally it all up and average it, I don't know what they're making. But like, it's definitely you don't think it's a math question in that case?
It's definitely a math question. It's also a convenience thing too. Like, I know New York traffic is notorious and probably not as bad as LA, but do you want to spend 2 hours on a highway just because there's some accident or there's some like road closure? It's sometimes you pay for the convenience of not having to deal with those things. Sometimes you pay for the convenience of not having to be in a metal tin box with a ton of other crazy people. So it's just like a push and a pull when it comes to trying to move from point A to point B. What's more valuable to you?
Yeah, no, I think communing is a big aspect of, like I like what you said last night about like walkability. I like sometimes you could just walk, then you control your entire environment. You're not dealing with traffic, you're not dealing with insane people in the subway or delays and stuff like that.
Yeah.
If you can walk around, that's the I would say that's the one thing I will give the city, Manhattan, the beauty of it. If you want to, I've done it. I walked from Madison Square Garden to my house in the Bronx. I did it. Remember the story that when I was tripping?
We talked about it.
Yeah, when I was tripping at MSG. It was, you could do that if you want, and then you control your entire environment. So if you live in Manhattan, that's the one thing I would say. You can either pop in the subway, but that's a risk if you don't want to deal with the people or the potential delays, which happen all the time. That's another thing I want to talk about. How is the MTA always in debt? How? The amount of tourists and people that pay this money to use the service. What are they doing?
It's a really good question.
Yeah. I think it's a combination of graft and also the amount of money.
They might be lying about it. This is what you're saying?
It's a high possibility of
why did you you act like we don't agree with you? We're like, I agree 100%.
Yeah, fair. Go ahead.
And then paying their union workers, they have a lot of rules that they have to abide by, and they have to pay them specific to the time of day that they work. If you're working at night in like crazy conditions, like being underground in a tunnel where there's not as much air, you have to pay them out the wazoo. So their costs, a lot of it, some of it makes sense, some of it doesn't. And there's other like things where they sell off property and it's like a sweetheart deal when they should have sold it for a lot more. It's all these crazy things that come into play.
Yeah. No, I think I agree with that.
Yeah, like the tellers, but the tellers are going to become obsolete, like Chris said before. The AI is taking that job.
Well, you don't even need AI. It's like just straight up like the whole move towards
the machine
using your phone to click you in and click you out. Yeah, I think I heard something, and I don't know how accurate it was, that because someone was talking about the new tax on if you drive into the city at a certain time. What is that? The congestion tax?
Yes.
Yeah. And that the person was saying how like what the government is saying it's for and what it really is for is like two different things, obviously. It was like pretty much it's to try to push more people to using it's a tax to get more money into the government / also to push more people into the MTA. And in this video, this conversation I was listening to, they were saying how like the amount of money, like, because also there's a lot of like people who jump turnstiles, like that adds up. Like I guess there's a lot more like, let's call it ride theft than I thought. Like they lose millions and millions of dollars just on people who don't pay for their rides. And the person was saying like, instead of adding all this like a congestion tax, just make it like a lot of other cities and countries where like you can't go through, like you can't jump a turnstile. Like a lot of other places, it's like a wall. Maybe it's like a plastic barrier.
It's like a door.
Yeah, until you scan in, it opens up. Whereas like New York City, it takes like someone who's not handicapped to just jump over it, or someone who can slip under it via like, Mamba number 5.
Oh my God.
But you know what I mean? Wow. Because I've seen people, and I imagine New York it's happening even more. Like that adds up. That's like lots of money. That's $3 a jump.
There's people that, and sometimes the even the security doors I've seen
are open, and then
people just walk through all the time. That is true, but I would think, it's a little outdated, and this is why, because I think they did it that way. It was designed that way because they want to just get as many people through as possible. So you're not waiting in line to get into the subway.
Makes sense.
But now
sense.
You're right. They should change it to it should be a door that can't be opened that you have to go through.
But the real issue isn't really subway ridership that's kind of being stolen. It's bus fare being stolen. Like the amount of people, a lot of people that just hop on the bus and don't pay for the fare is way more than subway ridership.
I believe it because it's easier.
Yep.
You get on in the back on a busy day. You just
door.
make sure you get out when like a couple. I bet you in Manhattan that happens all the time because you could easily take the bus a couple stops.
No
one's going to say anything.
Yeah, true. Joe, how many times have you been on a bus where the police, the transit police, come in and actually check everyone's ticket?
It's so weird because it's rare that I see that, but I know on certain lines,
it's very rare.
It's there sometimes. But even then, it's only at certain times of the day when it makes no sense to have them there. It's better to have them at night. But there's not going to be any transit police on the bus at night to kind of police that kind of thing.
Go around.
Yeah, you're right. Because I've ridden the bus quite a few times when we used to work in Elmhurst, Queens. On the what's that bus? I think I don't know if you took it, Chris, because you were coming from Brooklyn or Queens. You were coming from the south. I was coming from the north, and it was the M60. What's that select service bus? The
that
M60
goes into Manhattan.
No, that comes from Harlem
from
all
Manhattan
the way to Queens.
To LaGuardia. It's the M60.
Yeah, I was right.
I've seen that.
Yeah. I've seen it in the morning, like you said, like Chris said, like Andra, that in the morning I did it for years and they only stopped it twice. I've only seen it happen 2 times where they stopped and they checked, make sure everyone, people were flooding into that back door all the time. It was crazy, dude.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen it on a bus. And I used to take in Manhattan. I take buses in Queens and Brooklyn. Yeah. I don't think I ever saw a scenario where there was like a secondary worker that was checking,
making sure everyone paid that's sitting there. Paid. Yeah.
Well, also because you can. I mean, how would they even check, right? Because you can. It's not like
there's a
you get a receipt.
I've seen it. Yeah. So they have a little box.
Like if you have an unlimited card,
but they have a box that can check the receipt that you would print out, or if you use like a Omni or like your phone to pay, that box they have can scan your phone to see if you made a payment. So there's ways that they can check. It's just that
there's a physical ticket that gets printed out if you there, and like Joe said, they can find the way if they want to. I've seen one guy got jammed up. He was like, they were like, "Where's your ticket?" "Oh, I paid on my phone. Let me see it." "Nope, gone." Taken off the bus. Done.
Dude, so when I lived in Italy when I did study abroad, the buses were the same, and but you paid when you got on the bus, and it was the same thing. Like people would just jump on the bus, and then when like a secondary attendant would come to start collecting the money, you would just see like old ladies, young people, everyone just would be jumping off the bus, and it was literally like it was like a game every day.
Yeah,
and it wouldn't be like just the kids or like the teenagers. It would be like an 80-year-old woman. She's like, "No, I'm not paying you," and she'd get off the bus.
Yeah. I've also lived in.
Yeah, I know you were in Florence.
I was in Florence. Same thing happened. They were more like regimented about it. They would check the bus regularly. In New York, I've lived. I'm going to be 40 years old soon. I've only seen it happen 2 times, and that was on that M60 only. Never any other bus. Never a bus in the Bronx. Not one time.
So Joe, let me ask you a question, right? So like, so you lived in, and we're just going to kind of focus on New York, but like, if you could make some changes to New York City that would kind of like take away some of the negatives, and then maybe also bring in some of the positives of like suburban life, like, do you think there's like a sweet spot that you could achieve? Does that question make sense? Like, if you had the power to reshape New York, like what changes would you make that kind of like would say, all right, this is if I take this out or add this, it makes it more livable. I get X or Y benefit of like essentially what it would be like to live in the suburbs, but I also get the benefits of living in the city. Like, can you imagine that? Like, I could do that in reverse for the suburbs, easy.
I would say it's hard to do, to like think of a way to fix that, because there's always going to be some inequity around that. But I think
Well, but for you personally, like if you never had to commute by subway and you could get, let's say, for whatever reason, you could get everywhere you needed to be via car, would that be like a massive game changer for you living in New York?
I would say yeah, but you have to fix the infrastructure first before you do any of that stuff.
Fair enough. But I'm not trying to save the world. I'm just trying to like make your life better. Like if you for tomorrow, I said, here's
good point he
here's
makes.
a phone call. You can get anywhere by car. Like it might take you still the same amount of time, but you don't have to ever worry about taking a subway. Would that be like an epic game changer for you personally? The peasants will take the subway. I can't help their lives. I can only help you.
Don't call me a peasant. Fuck off.
I'm a peasant too, man. It's all right.
Yeah, we're the people.
The common people, man.
Come on. Yeah.
There's always the class.
I was just playing, but go ahead.
Like to me, is that a? Because I know at a certain point you started paying to take like the express buses, and
it's more convenient.
I know, that's what I'm saying.
So bougie.
Everyone says that. I don't care. Take my express bus all day, every day.
Yeah, it's more of a coach feel.
Yes, it's exactly a coach feel.
I mean, it is. It's like you're taking like a Greyhound.
Yeah, this guy's bougie, man. Go ahead. Sorry. yeah.
I think it's mainly infrastructure. You gotta figure out a way to make every nook and cranny of any city as walkable as possible, and to do that, you probably might have to take away a lot of the highways, a lot of the roads. But when you do that, you screw over everyone else. So maybe like do a bit more tunneling, have like underground, like.
But dude, like you still have to cover the distance.
Yeah, that's
like if you live out in Far Rockaway. Let's say you make it walkable. What is the tunnel going to do for you? Like you got, are you gonna walk 5 hours to get into Manhattan?
Yeah. No, and the tunneling
exactly.
If I would hope, if done right, it would be a more direct path. It's not going to be these winding roads like you find, especially in Far Rockaway or the Queens, where it's these crazy winding roads that lead to a lot like nowhere a lot of the time. As long as you get like a direct path to point A to point B, would be like a better way to go, and have a bit more of like Brooklyn and Manhattan has this a lot, and I feel like South Bronx is getting there, and definitely Long Island City is there too. But have a bit more like downtown areas in each of the boroughs would help to kind of alleviate the congestion in like a Manhattan, where you don't have to work in Manhattan. You can work in the same borough, and it'll cut off maybe a third of the commute time, and it would help also bring down, hopefully, the cost of rent, because not everyone is trying to live in Manhattan because they also work and play in Manhattan. You can also work and play in Queens or Brooklyn too. So basically decentralizing New York City would help.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. That's I like that. I like that. Because it is, I can speak to the South Bronx. It is turning in the South Bronx right now. I would say is Williamsburg regenerated. I would say it is in like it's right now. It's about 2012 Williamsburg, and
that's where you live.
No, I'm all the way up north. Oh, okay. But I've been there. There's a place called the Bronx Brewery, which I rep pretty hard. I love that place.
Oh man.
Yeah, and what's the name of it? They even gave it like a cool real estate name, like Mott Haven or something, or like they gave it. I can't even remember it, but it's really Hunts Point to me. Remember the old HBO show?
Oh God,
the hookers on the point. You know what I'm saying?
Oh God.
Yeah, there was a show, Chris, on HBO about like sex workers in Hunts Point in the 90s, back in the day, old school HBO, like Taxi Cab Confessions.
Yeah, I was gonna say definitely that timeline.
Yeah. So, but that neighborhood is becoming. You're gonna see a Whole Foods there at some point. You're gonna see an Equinox. You're gonna see an Apple store. It's gonna happen at some point.
I think COVID helped speed up that process.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
So,
definitely.
right, because people working remote essentially is speeding up that process. So I mean, Joe, but you're already seeing that. But like when you're 80, I guess I'm trying to get to the point of like I ask you a question about you, and you start to like reconstruct at like a government city level. Like that's just nothing that you can do. I mean, unless you're in your next chapter of your life, you're trying to get into like government politics. Even then, like you said with the unions, they'll be working on the same road for the rest of your life. So I don't.
Yeah, I like how Chris and I both worked in the transportation industry, and Joe knows more about it than we do.
Yeah,
he's right.
100%.
He's right. He's right.
So, but like, what would like you're gonna come to a point like where you're gonna have to ask that, like, what when you do the mental math of like, is it worth staying here or not staying here? Like, what are the variables in that calculation that you like look to measure?
I feel like for me, it's really
like not things that are out of your control, like things that are in your control.
I was just about to say I was gonna think irrationally and think about the things that are outside of my control, like weather. I feel like the older I get,
that counts.
The more I'm gonna be unlikely to want to deal with shoveling snow or dealing with transportation in like shitty weather.
Yeah, that's a big one.
But things in
like, dude, New York City when it's
control-
winter, when it's cold, and you got to commute, that sucks.
Yeah.
That's when people in the suburbs look at you and they're like, "You're an idiot." Like, I go from my hot house to my hot car to my hot office and back into my hot car, and you're like waiting for a subway, like a fucking idiot.
And the other way around in the summer, you go from the air conditioning to the AC car, and you're not in the hot subway platform burning up.
Oh man,
smelling the worst smells you ever smell. Yeah,
I have flashbacks of being stuck in Queens, like because you do something and then it's late at night and you got to take a bus and you're just waiting for hours.
Yeah,
for a bus. When I was younger, now I would not even wait. Right, I'm taking a car, but like you know what I mean, where you're like, I'm waiting for public transit to get 10 miles. I can't walk, but I'm gonna wait an hour for a 20-minute or a 40-minute bus ride. That stuff, like in my mental math. No.
Yeah.
But go ahead, Joe. Sorry, continue. So the weather, I agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
Just piggyback on that. One thing I never understood was how can a subway system that's older than New York, like London, have AC and barriers to prevent people from jumping on the tracks. They have this stuff and they're older than our system. Why? I don't understand why we don't have that.
It's a good question.
It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, maybe there's. I mean, let's not go down this road. It's like the crony. It's the government. We're gonna get Corvo all riled up about the government.
Yeah.
Government. That's who they run it. That's the question.
It's a good question though, Joe, because you're like in a new city, London. It's old. So
way older.
How are they able to make these types of renovations? It's one thing if you're in a brand new city and you're like, all right, we're gonna build a subway system. Well, they're gonna build like a state of the art subway system.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. It's another thing when it's an ancient city and it has more features than like New York City. That's a good question. I didn't know that their subway system was so much better.
Yeah, it is. And although to be fair, their system isn't 24/7, and ours, New York City, is. So
that
I think
might
that's
be
part of it.
Yeah,
but still.
Yeah, because to do a renovation in New York City, like it's hard. It almost becomes nearly impossible. Mm-hmm. Like I remember the M train where I lived, they were for years. They were in the process of like expanding it, and it would suck because this month to this month you have to take a shuttle to this location to that location, and you have hundreds of thousands of people that are in that. Like you have thousands of people in that area that are being displaced, and they're pissed. Right. So it is like I wouldn't want to be the person having to figure out like who are we going to piss off in order to make this happen.
To answer your previous question, though, I know for me, driving in car is a non-starter. I don't want to do it. And it's not even about owning a car. It's just I don't want to drive a car. Period. So just things within my control. Even if I could deal with like the math of it, I just don't want to drive a car.
Okay. So cold would get you
agree.
out of the city. Having to drive a car will keep you in the city.
All right. Yeah.
I'm me and Joe are kindred spirits in that. I can't live in a place where I need to have a car.
Yeah.
Full stop. I can't do it. Yeah.
So what else? Any other ones?
I have a question for you, Joe. What about the convenience of being able to walk out your house and go to
I know where
like the
this is
shop
going.
on the
I
corner?
knew you were gonna say
Because
deli. I was
Corvo,
waiting for
I
that.
know as a suburb guy now, and when you were growing up, everything. I'm not trying to slander New Jersey.
No,
but,
but really, anywhere that's not a walkable public transit city,
correct,
is going to have that problem. So go ahead, yeah.
So you're going to strip malls, and all you're seeing are franchises, just franchise after franchise. There's no authentic mom and pop stores.
Not true, but yeah.
All right, fair.
But go ahead.
But you, because I want to ask
driving. You're driving everywhere. You're going. Yeah, no, 100%.
Yeah, like I can just step out. I can walk outside right now, and the grocery store, which I'm gonna do. And after we're done here, walk to the grocery store and walk back. Don't have to worry about loading a car, getting in a car. Nah, I'm in control of the entire situation. I'm on foot, and if I want something late night, I could go to the bodega, the corner store. If I want to go to like all these cool, authentic shop, I'm not talking about the boutique, fancy, like Valentino, Louis Vuitton stuff. No. I'm only Ralphie. If it ain't Ralphie, it ain't right. I'll go to Ralph Lauren. I'm not going anywhere else. But like that, like I can go, but when you're in the suburbs, you have to get in your car and you got to drive to like either a shopping center or a strip mall. So what do you?
I 100% agree. I mean, dude, I'll give you my quick spiel.
Before you do that, so give me I know Jersey has authentic little shops, but that's why it's like I probably was out of
that's fine.
Like offside talking. Yeah, talking about New Jersey. New Jersey has some cool like family-owned places that are on franchises, but for the most part, I'm right. Yeah,
I wrote down like food. Like if you live in a city, well, I'm just gonna say New York because like I think there's other cities you go to. Food like Nashville, I didn't find food was like amazing. It was. If you wanted to get chicken, great, or barbecue, but not. But no, I mean, city New York, you get the variety of food is unstoppable. Mm-hmm. You can get anything from anywhere. Hours is like you said, you get home at 10, you want to go get something hot to eat
and good and quality
and good, right? Like you can probably find a place that's still open, mm-hmm. And a lot of variety, right? So like 10 o'clock here, maybe there's a option. Right. In New York, there might be 50 options. And if you're going to use like Seamless,
exactly,
it might be even more because whoever's willing to deliver. Right. So I 100% agree with that. I think the walking thing is clutch. Again, that's like New York because New York is it's a very walkable city. Right. Like you can walk everywhere. You want to go get a cup of coffee. Like let's say you're starting your day, you work from home and you just want to go get a nice cup of coffee. You can go walk down the street and go get a cup of coffee. And if it's a nice day, walk back and enjoy that experience. Suburbs, unless you live in like a town, like a more historical town where they kind of have that best of both worlds, kind of like Ridgewood. Because imagine like there are these historic towns in New Jersey. They're like a Ridgewood, right? If you lived in one of them, you could probably walk and go get something. But for most people who live in the suburbs, everywhere you want, you want to go drive. You go to doctors, you're driving. You want to go get a couple ingredients for a meal, you're driving, which is kind of annoying in some respect, right? On the other respect, you have a car. I mean, I lived in Ridgewood, right? You go to BJ's, I got to carry all of this stuff home. Whereas if I have a car, I can load up the trunk and not go to BJ's for a month if I wanted to. So like that's, but again, like I like the ability to be able to drive. Or if I want to go get a drink, that's a perfect example. New York, you want to go get a drink. I want to go hang out with Vado. We're gonna go to a couple different bars, have a drink, not like get wasted, just like have a drink, walk around, get something to eat.
Yeah,
you can walk down,
do it all
8th Avenue, get a drink over here, hang out, go walk over there, get a slice of pizza, walk over here, get another drink. You get a little tipsy and still be, walk around, do what you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Suburbs, you don't have that. Like, you have to drive everywhere. You're not going to go out and have a couple drinks because it's like, okay, well, I got to make sure I can drive to get home.
Correct. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. I might not be hammered, but I'm like not legally allowed to drive at this point. So like for me, the best middle ground is like either like a smaller city, like kind of like what you're talking about, Joe, like where you get the benefits of a city life, but it's not so popular where you're dealing with all of these crowds. Like there's a lot of cities in New York, like, or in New Jersey and America, that like we don't even know the names to, but they're like nice cities that like we probably really would enjoy. What do they call them? Like second tier cities.
Yeah.
But
Columbus is underrated.
Yeah, like I'd like a place like that where like if I can have a car, I can be in proximity to the city, but maybe not live right in the city where it's not super, super congested. Where if I want to buy a house, I could buy a house. Or if I want to rent an apartment, I could rent an apartment and it's not like $4,000 a month. For me, that's like the perfect situation. Because in the suburbs, there's also nothing like there's no one like if you're single, it's not very good. Like you're not going to bump into people. Yeah. Whereas in like New York, you could just be like having a cup of coffee and like, your
life could change.
Union Square, and then there's another person over there reading a book and you want to go talk to them. You can talk to them. Whereas like in the suburbs, everyone's like in their bubble. It's like, you go from point A to point B and back. Maybe you have a hobby, so you might meet people there. That to me is like a definite negative of like the suburbs. That's about it.
So for me, I mean, I'm curious to see what Joe thinks about it. No, but you're right, Chris. Like the convenience, I would just call that options.
Yeah,
options, and not only just you have plenty of options, you have the convenience of options, and like you said, if you want to do something fun, activities are all around you. You can do you can go to a heavy metal show in one place, and then the next place you're at like a dive bar just hanging out.
Yeah.
So
and community, I'd say community. I think it's easier to tap in and build community in the city to a degree than it is in the suburbs. I think in the suburbs it can be more difficult depending on what suburbs we're talking about.
Joe, I have a question for you then, based on this. So what do you think about like just the safety aspect of everything in terms of having all these people around you? And like obviously crime is getting bigger in New York City. I'll admit that it's the worst it's been since I've been alive. But what do you think in the suburbs? You're, like you said, you're tucked in, you're in your fort and you're good. When the city, anything can happen at any time.
That's a good question.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
And before, while you think about the answer, Joe, has like even have you felt an uptick in danger in the city?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
In the last 2 years,
I've been confronted in the subway a couple times,
really?
But nothing happened. Nothing kicked off.
Well, like, can you give me a summary of like what happened?
Yeah. So I was in the subway and I was walking into the car, but someone had their fucking goddamn bicycle. I don't mean to swear. Sorry. Got the bicycle in the car, and I bumped into the bicycle. And this guy he was just enraged afterwards, and he came right up to my face, and I was like, but I think he could tell, like, you could tell when someone is a New Yorker, and it's like, I'm not a guy, I'm not Mr. Tough Guy and going to instigate anything. Of course not. But I'm going to stand my ground. If you want to go, let's go. Then let's do it. Let's step outside and go. But I'm not gonna back down, but I'm not gonna start anything either.
Yeah.
So he got in my face, and he could tell, like, when I was answering him, I was like, yo, I did that was just pardon, like I said excuse me and pardon, like, come on, man, what are we doing here? Like, I think you're just looking for something to get angry about. So then when I was calm, I basically, it was actually good by me, I just slowly calmed him down in the heated conversation, and then he was cool with it afterwards. All I did was bumped into the wheel of his bicycle on
was it like a commuter bike or something? Okay.
On a packed train. If you take your bicycle out your house, ride the bicycle,
subway, and you're gonna put it on a subway, you're gonna get offended that someone touches your bike.
And we were literally face to face, and I slowly what's the word? Diffused. That's the word. Yeah, I diffused the situation, but he was like. I told him, I was like, if you want to step outside and do this, let's do it. I didn't do anything wrong. I apologize for what I did. I didn't mean to do it. Obviously, I didn't do it intentionally. So, come on, what are we doing here? And you have your bike on a subway train during the morning commute. Come on, what are we doing here? So then he calmed down, and then we were both actually kind of cool by the end of it.
The morning commute.
That's crazy. Yeah. Yeah, like imagine bringing your bike
on like the L train in the morning,
in the L train at rush hour, and then getting mad when someone nudges into it. Come on,
that's dumb.
Yeah, Larry has another good story about that same thing where someone got mad that he was standing too close to him. And I was like, "What are we doing? We're on the
subway in
New York City
out of your mind?
In the morning on the commute." And you're saying I'm standing too close to you. Look at the car. Everybody's here.
So do you remember what was his name? He worked back of house. He was removed for, I think, misplacing some phones.
I think I know who you're talking about.
So start with a B.
Joe, help us out here.
I'm trying to figure out who you're talking.
I know who he is. Short fella.
Yes. Okay. We're talking about the same guy.
Yeah. I know. I forgot.
So I remember on the L train because we work nights. So it's you're getting off of work at like around 10 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember on the L train. So you're going down. I would take the L train at 8th Avenue, right? So it's late, and there would be a guy there who just acted crazy. He would be pacing up and down the L train, just waiting, like acting mad. If you look, type of guy that really, if you look at him, he's gonna be like, "Oh, the door's open. I'm gonna go now and torment this person." Right. So I remember he did it to this guy who starts with a B, and it was just like you described, the guy I want to just say his name, and I'm going to call his name Bob, right? Bob looks at this crazy guy. The crazy guy looks at Bob. Bob looks at the crazy guy. Crazy guy just starts yelling at him, going off. Now, Bob is born and bred Brooklyn. Not going to be.
You want me to say his name? I remember his name.
Let's leave it. Anyway, so this guy starts going in on
Put
Bob.
It in the private chat.
Bob's just sitting there, looking, waiting. The guy is just yelling, acting crazy, acting legit crazy. Like you see people on the subway just acting insane. And this guy, Bob, looks at him and goes, What do you want? And it was hilarious because the crazy guy all of a sudden became sane. The most sane person in the world.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Left. And it's that's the thing that's to me, which even when I lived in New York before the uptick, you have a lot of people who the old school New Yorkers are no longer around because they would have gave them a smack. And those people didn't behave that way anymore, right? Now, because most people taking the trains in Manhattan are not from there, right? You got these people who just act insane. They're acting. They're not insane. They're just acting because there's no one there who's going to give them, a 1-2 to the face.
Yeah, the tourists from Kentucky are not going to do anything.
And I remember I watched it because I was not even with him. I was further down. I saw it and I was I've seen this guy all the time. He acts insane. If you saw him, you would be on guard. And it was just hilarious because Bob just looked at him and was like, "What do you want?" And it just the madness faded away like a blanket falling to the ground. And the guy was a sane individual again. I was this son of a gun,
it's a light switch.
Yeah, I was people like that just need to get beat up. Someone needs to beat them up.
He's facts.
I hate to say
facts.
it, but someone needs to pull a stick and just give him one, hard one. And I think a lot of the insane people wouldn't exist anymore.
Yeah, Joe, do you have a New York story like that, like a confrontation? Because I got another one.
I got a couple.
To answer your first question, I've not, because I live on the pampered life on that express bus.
So you're not seeing the crime that much. Yeah.
I haven't. Nope.
Mr. Bougie over here. What's going on?
I do have one story, and that's prior to the express bus life. I was taking, I think, the 2 train home for some reason. It was winter, and some homeless dude was just screaming on the line, and he just started spitting in the direction of like everyone that was in the car. So everyone just started to like get out of the car and move to the next one, and he like followed everybody to the next car and did the same thing. It was so surreal. I've never seen anything like that, and I've seen crazy things like rats on the subway, but
that's not that crazy.
Yeah, to me, I'm like, I literally I checked out. I've seen that many times.
Yeah.
A guy like that needs to get punched in the face.
He's spitting on people. He was spitting on people.
Yeah.
Oh no, that guy needs to get knocked out.
Yeah. Because also, I bet you a lot of these people, they change. Like, let's say the same train. Like, if you take the C train or the A train, you can go from working class to high end and back to working class.
That's a good point. That's a great point.
I imagine those people who act insane, if you were to videotape them from end to end, I bet you they change depending on what neighborhood they're in.
I can see that.
Yeah.
Because I'm telling you, man, a guy from the beginning of the A train who's a blue collar guy who's working, I don't know, sanitation. I don't think he's going to let some guy spit on him. Like, you know what I'm talking about. We all know these people. Like, I've been on the train with them. Like, a guy like that is not going to let someone spit on him. That's like, he's going to start his day with bloody in his knuckles. So that's why a lot of homeless people, man, I lost a lot of compassion for them after living in New York for a decade. Like, there's some people I feel bad for who literally have they're mentally deranged, or something's wrong, and you see them and you feel for them and you give them something. There's a lot of people who are just straight up like grifters and like, I don't even know how you would call it, criminals, for lack of a better word, who like
miscreants.
Miscreants. Exactly. They're not even criminals. They're just like
they're not criminals, but
they're like city clutter,
shit stirrers. Yeah.
Who just will like take advantage and will provoke if they can get away with it.
Yeah, no, I agree. That's weird, Joe. Like, I didn't know Joe was living. Are you living like a reality show type of celebrity lifestyle with this lavish, plush lifestyle? Come on, man. You're a New Yorker. Don't do this.
It was just convenience. Like, literally, this express bus, it's like a block and a half away from this house, as opposed to me taking a local bus to the L train. That's
dude,
like
I get
extra work.
Listen to this guy.
I get it.
Listen to this guy.
I'm surprised you're just not taking cars. That's what I'm saying. Like, if I gave you like an unlimited black card that could just take a car anywhere.
Oh, yeah, of course.
I know you would be taking cars everywhere.
Yeah. My commute.
Honestly, the only time I would do that is at night.
No, and that's not true, because on your morning shift to your previous job, I'm pretty sure you were taking an express bus.
He was.
I don't have that gig anymore. So,
well, of course, but I mean, yeah. I'll tell you that one of the craziest things I saw was watch a guy get off a train, go to the wall, take a shit while making full eye contact with me the entire time.
Wait, he was laser eye locked?
Oh, yeah. We were having like an intimate moment, and he just literally walked back to the wall, squatted a little bit so that his butt was on the wall, and just took a shit and like direct eye contact the whole time.
Oh, man.
That's worse than getting confronted or anything physical. That's disturbing.
I was like, all right, I'd been here for a long time at that point. I was like, oh, this is going to be a rude awakening if you're new to this environment.
Yeah, you already hardened at this point. Yeah, like the tourists, I feel like because I think the international tourists they're smarter, but like
I don't know,
the
man.
people, maybe not.
Go ahead,
but maybe like the people that are coming from like Omaha, Nebraska. I'm gonna go to the big city. I'm gonna go to New York.
I think Chris is on the money with that. I think the international tourists, they have no clue.
I think, yeah. I mean, dude, I moved here.
You're probably right.
I've been here like 2 years. The first time I came back to New York, literally, I'm walking up the train. So I'm, you coming into Path. I'm taking NJ Transit. I'm at Penn Station. I'm coming up the steps from where my NJ Transit train is letting me off. And right before the doors that let you into Penn Station is a man sleeping on the ground in front of the doors. And it was like hilarious. I haven't been in the city in like 2 years.
Yeah.
And all these people, because they come in through the airport, right, from Newark, from all over the world. I'm like, their first visit to New York, what is the first thing they're going to see is a grown ass 200 plus pound man sleeping at the top of the steps in front of the door to let them into Penn Station.
Yeah, Penn Station is kind of like the Skid Row of New York
Dude,
City.
it is horrible.
It's bad.
It's horrible.
Bad.
And like, again,
I got some Penn Station stories.
I feel, but I'm like, I also don't feel. I'm like, guys, this is ridiculous. Like, New York is an expensive place. All these people are coming in. They're going to spend all this money. And that's what you want them to see when they come in is like a homeless person, I'm assuming, like sleep. He doesn't even need to sleep there. Like there are other parts of Penn Station that are more practical to sleep in.
Yeah, there's a lounge.
Right? It's like even him sleeping there is kind of to me like an affront. Like, dude, you're being a dick. Like there are tons of nooks and crannies in Penn Station where you could sleep. You're sleeping in a place where every 30 minutes there is like 200 plus people that are going to walk over you.
Step over you.
You're being a dick. Like that's an intentional act.
I will say this. When you are on, I mean, I wouldn't know from personal experience, but when you're on the streets for years on end, things like that are the last thing you think about.
This is you're probably not wrong, but also you become crafty like a predatory animal, and like you have self-preservation.
You adapt to the environment.
Like, that's not also the most practical place to sleep if you are like a cunning person that lives on the street. Like that's how I think about it. Like if I was living on the street, I don't want to be in that position. I'm finding a nook in a cranny where I can protect myself from every angle of attack, not like sprawled spread eagle like at the top of a stair. Like that doesn't, from a self-preservation standpoint, that's not good either. But you're right. I don't know his mindset. I just thought it was interesting. Like no security person has ever tapped him on the shoulder like and had him move. So is it just a free-for-all in Penn Station? You can do whatever you want.
I think there's like a drug rehabilitation center nearby. Mm-hmm.
Because dude, if you go to the library in New York, if your head drops in the act of falling asleep, a librarian, a old woman is going to tap you on the shoulder and have you leave or wake up. This has happened to me many times. So that's a librarian, not a guy with an M16 in Penn Station. They have guys with guns there all the time.
Yeah, they have
no one is tapping this guy on the shoulder and saying, "You can't do this. Go away. Go somewhere else." Like to me, I think it's a free for all there. Like they just don't care anymore.
It's just a pit of mutants in Penn Station. As someone who spends a lot of time or used to in Madison Square Garden, I hate that man.
I feel bad. I'm like not trying to be hard hearted, but I don't know. To me, it's like.
I was talking about James Dolan, but whatever. Yeah, but yeah, I feel like you said, there is some level of empathy, but it's up to the people that are patrolling the place to clean that up. But
all right, guys, before we go down the dark road, what are some final thoughts as we wrap up this conversation on the pros and cons of suburban life versus
I'm city all day.
Life.
I'll tell you right now, Chris, you're going to disagree, which is good. I'm city all day.
I am too, but it's mainly because of walkability and access to amenities.
Yeah, access, options, access, exactly, and walkability.
I'm not going to disagree with you. I don't know if I'd go back to New York, but I think there are a lot of cities or European cities. I think there's a lot of European cities that would be kind of cool to live in, or like Montreal in Canada, like a European city in like a different country.
I've been to Montreal. It's like it's
like
being
think,
in Europe.
Yeah, the walking ability is really nice. I do think it would like we're also approaching this all as like single men.
Yeah, I need the city.
Right, which is like different. I think if we had this conversation with people who had like a Vado who has kids and stuff like that, there's definitely some variables that we're probably not thinking about, like commuting with 2 kids through the subway and buses is like, I can't imagine why anyone would ever want to do it. But like as a single person, I do think like a city is nice. It has amenities, but I probably would not go back to New York. Too expensive.
Yeah, true. But the financial part, I agree with Joe. I have one last question.
Go ahead.
I want to wrap it up. What do you think about lines, like waiting for things in the city? Chris has a point. In the city, you're constantly on lines waiting for things.
I have to admit, if I see a line, I just
you're out.
I give up. Yeah, I'll move on to something else. I won't wait for it.
Yeah, so Chris, point for the burbs for Corvo, because lines in the lines everywhere. Like once something gets posted on Instagram, you try to walk by there, there's a line out the door. Done.
Dude, but I think that's the same in the suburbs too. Like, because honestly, because also there's a lack of things. So if there is something, you got to think everyone is going there. Whereas in the city, there's different niches. There might be different things going on. So I think that problem, like now with social media, it's a problem that affects everyone, right? Because there's no longer anything that's like hidden. Like I remember when I went to the Dumbo Art Festival, that used to be a place you could go. The last time I had gone to it, because they could post it everywhere, you got off the subway and there were already lines starting. Like you couldn't get in. It was like they didn't even expect that amount of people. So I think the suburbs is kind of similar. It's just there's a lack of those opportunities.
Yeah, I see that.
I think that's just the nature of like nowadays social media. There's nothing hidden. Like you post it if it's an event.
That's a fair point.
Assume that like everyone in the area is going to go to it.
But you would have to admit that in New York City, it's outrageous. It's outrageous.
100%. Yeah, I mean, dude, there's nothing secret anymore, right? Like any event that is publicized, like especially in the city, everyone's going to be there. So like you're never getting free of the crowd.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like you're constantly, but as someone who likes to socialize, I like being around people. And it's there's, like I said, there's science journals that have written about this, that it's good for you to be around like the right people, like the energy is actually healthy for you.
Yeah, I mean, dude, being a hermit is not good. Like there are very few people who I think like are programmed in a way where like complete solitude is beneficial to them. Like the vast majority of us, I think you don't even need to read a scientific journal. You just know if you're by yourself too much, your mind starts to go down dark pathways. Whereas you go socialize with some people, even if they're not your friends, just like out and about, have a conversation. Like I've always felt better afterwards.
Yeah, you're right. That's what as a personal story, we've talked about this. That's what happened to me during COVID. That's why it got dodgy there for a little bit, because it was pure isolation. So
yeah, dude. No, I mean, I think people are still working through the scars of COVID because of
what happened.
A lot of isolation. Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right, boys. This was interesting. We kind of like hit on a variety of.
There's so much more we could go into, and the three of us also have, I've like so many more stories to tell about New York City. But
like especially we should do an episode that's just like weird things. We should do that. Weird New York
stories. That's a great idea.
Yeah, because I know you have a bunch.
Oh yeah,
and Joe, you have to have a bunch.
Hours,
like just because you lived in New York your whole life. Yeah. And even I have like a decent amount of just weird, random. Yeah, dude. Yeah, I have some random.
Yeah, all right. Joe, I'm glad you're back. He's going to be more regular now,
dude. Bro, you're with us, man. You're for the people of the triumvirate.
Yeah, from the audience, this is going to be. We've added a new. I'm just going to call it. We've added a new member.
He is
to the Draxx Life, and we're happy to have him.
Oh, dude.
Even though he's bougie now. Even though he's living the high life.
You'll know that he's gone. He's
Steve Winwood style.
Once he's wearing the suits again, we'll know that he has gone full circle. The transition will be there. The king will have arisen.
He went. He went from the giant skier looking like the special team coach back to Kenneth Cole, Joe.
Yes. Yeah. I want the Kenneth Cole.
I want him back too. I want him back too. I couldn't agree more.
Yes, I mean that was a legendary character. Nothing like a man dressed like he's, I don't know, ready to go back into a boardroom selling computers.
That's right. He looks like he just closed a deal, and when Corvo and I look like this.
Jamokes. Jamokes.
You're not helping the case of me returning back to that, by the way.
No. Bro, the coolest thing, one of the coolest things was the fact that that was such a bold statement that you chose to wear high-end three-piece suits. I gave you so much applaud in my mind. I was like, I wish I had the courage to be like, I'm going to make the statement. I'm going to dress. That's why also you fit in everywhere. You fit in everywhere. You could be walking. They think that you're like I don't know, directing a movie or, a model or whatever, working in fashion in some respect.
Corvo, what's the John Hamm line from Mad Men? You told me this before.
I told you. Yeah. Well,
suit. I was like, I'm in a suit. I could do whatever I want.
I fit in everywhere.
I fit in everywhere.
Yeah, you ever see that episode? You were huge. Yeah, right. He's like, you can't go out there. The cops are out there. It's like, I can go anywhere I want.
Yeah,
it's true. It is true, right? It's true. Yeah, no one's gonna stop a man in a suit.
That's right.
Men like us, they think we're criminals.
Yeah, look at me. I have a Steve. Come on, I'm not even gonna get into it.
Yeah. I mean, he Corvo looks like a pirate. I look like I'm about to perform a heist.
Yeah, Corvo looks like he's going to break into your house and the alarm's ringing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's not good. It's not a good look.
No,
look at long ass hair, man. What's going on with us?
Corvo, I like the look. I like the danger element. I like the look.
A little cunning.
Yeah, exactly.
A little edge.
Yeah, I like it.
All right, folks. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Draxx Life.
Always a good time.
Have a good one. Peace.
Salute.